from Stream, I'm going to share something with my class. I'm going to say it's a Picture Day Friday. Here, I can assign it to this class, but say I'm teaching 5 different classes at the secondary level, I can also click on, and this will send an announcement out to all of my classes and all students. So maybe it's a makeup picture day, and I'm going to uncheck all students, but only Janine and Mark and Lisa need to be reminded about picture day. So you can get kind of granular. You can give it to certain classrooms, and you can also give it to certain students within the class. All right. So here I can also add an attachment, and it's not just paperclip attachments. I can always also add from Google Drive. I can have a link to the LifeTouch website, so I can pay for my pictures. I can put a file on there, so I can upload an MP3 or a movie, or I can have embed a YouTube link. Like, hey kids, watch this video for Friday before our discussion, something like that. And very similar to the Classwork section, I can click post and it sends it out right now, or I hit that little downward caret right there. I can schedule this to come out later today, first thing tomorrow morning. I can put in like 9 a.m. Or if I want to do a lot of work ahead of time, which probably a lot of teachers during distance learning are doing, it's kind of crushing it on Monday and just doing grading and check-ins the rest of the week, you can save a draft that you can later push out to your students. So now we move over to the Classwork tab. Now remember, like Lindsay said, the announcement, the share something with your class from the stream is just an announcement. It's just putting something out there. But with the Classwork, this is where you can actually grade the students' work. So I'm going to press my create button right here, and I have a choice: an assignment, a quiz assignment, a question, material, or reuse post. Here's what an assignment is. It's something that maybe I created inside of Google Drive that I'm going to pass out to my students, and I'm going to expect them to turn it back into me, and there's probably at least a checkoff, but sometimes a grade involved in that. If I click on quiz assignment, that actually opens up a new blank Google Forms quiz, and very quickly I can make a Forms quiz for my students and push it out to them immediately. If you've already made a Google Forms quiz 2 weeks ago, 5 years ago, that you're just reusing from Google Drive, choose assignment. The quiz assignment is just for doing something on the fly. Passing out a question. I put a question out there to students. There are a few options with that, play around inside of there, but that's asking students a question and they can reply back to me.
Questions are a form of an online discussion, and I want to make sure that everybody knows the brilliance of Google Classroom questions. Usually in an online discussion, you would love your students to have to say something before seeing everybody else's, and that's the brilliance of how Google Classroom has set this up. Everybody can see your question, and usually you would do this as a written form rather than a multiple choice check-in, although that is an option. But for short answer, it can actually be as long as you want. It's not like a Google Forms short answer that's only 1 or 2 words. And after they see your question, the students have to write their answer first and submit it before they then get to see anybody else's answer. As soon as they post their answer, everybody else's that has been posted, they can see and they can then reply. And you as the teacher get to see it in kind of this like outline format. And so you can have a discussion that way.
So on the side right here, notice you can write down your question, as Lindsay said, short answer, multiple choice. Type your instructions here. You can also like look at this document, watch this video, something like that, that you can add as an attachment to a question. Put a due date on there. You can assign it a topic, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Students can reply to each other, almost like a threaded discussion, and students can edit their own answer. You can also assign points to it, which is kind of nice.
Another thing that's interesting with this is teachers during distance learning can use this for taking attendance. So this could be a multiple choice, quick question that they post every day and students say, I've reviewed my assignments for today. And then you're not really relying on them turning everything in, but at least you know they're checking in.
Ooh, that's a great strategy. I like that. So I could also, just like everything else, schedule, save draft. So I could schedule this for and tomorrow at 9 a.m. when we start class, right? Material is something like one of those docs you just kind of go back to all the time. If students are finished early in class, I would always have kind of a stack of reading log papers that they'd read and take notes on. And it was always in a certain part of my classroom. This is like that. The material is just something that your students use all the time. So it's not really something with a grade, but it's just they know where to find this stuff. Reuse post is great if you basically had a great Google Classroom from last year and you're just kind of pulling a lot of that same stuff. Reuse post. We'll talk about topic in just a second, but let's look at assignment right here. So I'm going to click create assignment. I'm going to call this reading log, and I can type in my instructions there. I can click add, and maybe I created a reading log for my students already. So I'm just going to find any Google Doc right here. Now, once I attach something from Google Drive, I have three choices. Do I want students just to see it? That's students can view file. I just want them to see it, so that's there for their enrichment. Students can edit file. That means that every single student who you share this with is editing the same document at the same time.
There is a use case for that I think that might be interesting for our primary teachers. If you're experimenting with group work and you want to have 2 to 3 students work on a set of Google Slides together, for example, maybe it's for their animal report or a family tree, that's when you would use that along with the assigned to students. So essentially for your class of 20 or 22, you might post 5 assignments, but you would assign it to groups of 2 to 3 or 4, and then you would let them all work on the same file. Now, when they're older, we just have them create their own shared slide and send it in to us, and they all work on it as a group. But when they're younger, you may want to be the one that creates the slide, and that's when you would use that one.
But I think the one people really want to use most of the time is this last one called make a copy for each student. When I assign this, it makes a copy and it inserts that into every single student's Google Drive, and it creates the title, which is called reading log, student name. Now, when you make a copy for each student and it pushes it out to every student, sometimes we forget and we don't choose make a copy for each student. We just leave it on the default students can view file and we assign the work. And then we think, oh no, I didn't make a copy for each student. And we go back in and edit the assignment, and make a copy for each student is gone. That's just kind of one of the quirks of Google Classroom. If you don't make a copy for each student on the first time that you assign the work, you lose that option. So what you have to do is come up here and delete the assignment and start fresh. Sorry about that, but you have to make a copy for each student the first time that you give your assignment. A couple new features that I really want to show you here. I can, again, like we said earlier, I can assign it to a bunch of classes all at the same time. I can assign this to all students or only a few. This is excellent if you're differentiating your instruction for special ed students or with gifted students in your class. You can still use Google Classroom, but it only goes to specifically chosen students. Points, ungraded, or I can say I want this to be worth 10 points. Due date, I'm going to make this due tomorrow at 3 p.m. Topic. Now, this is something that's really great. Now, normally during a regularly scheduled school year, you might have topics. Imagine you're an English teacher and you have one topic of grammar. And every time you assign something that's about grammar, you give it a topic. So if students are looking for their grammar work, they can basically filter out and only see grammar work. You can have persuasive writing, narrative writing, comma rules, things like that. For distance learning, though, Jamie was just mentioning something. Jamie wanted to share this idea, which I thought was good.
Yeah, so Lindsay and I both had an idea. So I have like the first idea and then she made it better. So my idea was that we would label everything as the topic of distance learning and it's all grouped together. But Lindsay had one better.
Well, I didn't make it up. I've seen it on blogs in the last couple of weeks, and certain teachers are suggesting that the topics are the beginning of each week within distance learning. So yesterday's date could be a topic, and every single thing that I assign or post during this week would have this topic attached to it so that students know every single thing that they are expected to pay attention to for this week has that topic attached to it, which means after this week, I don't have to pay attention unless my teacher specifically tells me to. I don't have to pay attention to those things with today or this week's topic.
Yeah,
That's great. That's good organization.
Yeah, it can be really anything you want, right? But these are ways that you can say, hey, I see what this can do. I'm going to kind of use this for my own benefit. So you can assign a topic there. And now this is a new feature. If you haven't been in Google Classroom for a while, here's a nice new feature right here. It's called Rubric. Now, generally, you could, maybe more subjective grading, like, okay, this looks like an 8 out of 10. That's how Google Classroom used to work, but now we can actually go in and use rubrics and students can get a little bit more feedback from you. It's easy to set up and it's easy to grade quickly and move on to the next student. So I'm going to create a rubric here. And my criterion title is spelling and are all words spelled correctly. This is worth 1 point. Now I'm going to make this worth 4 points. Level title is excellent. And my description is every word spelled correctly. That's an excellent. This one is worth 3 points. Pretty good. And only 5 errors. Next, and I can keep going with this, right?
Yeah.
Then I can add a criterion. Oh, points required. Criterion title, this one is sentence fluency. And I can spell my words correctly and go through and delete that level. And I can go in and I can add a bunch of criteria. So I could actually have a nice big grid of all of my criteria for a certain project. I'm going to delete this one so it doesn't get mad at me. All right, now I'm going to come up here. And this is worth out of 4 points total so far. And this will automatically make your out of points. It will add everything up for you, which is nice. We click save. So now when a student turns this work in, I've got my rubric right there. I can click on it, and it actually looks a little bit different on the right side, which we might be able to demonstrate in just a minute. But all I do is click on each one of these, and it adds the points up for me. I press save, student gets their work back, it gives them a completed rubric, and you're done, and then you move on to the next student. So this is a new feature inside of Google Classroom that is super, super easy.